So, good morning, good morning, good morning. We are live and it is Saturday morning. I don't know what the date is. The 20 something, maybe. Who knows? Could it be the 27th? Would that be right? Anyway, whatever it is Saturday morning and we're getting towards the end of November. It's getting to be exciting now. Thanksgiving is over and done with. And although still it's the Thanksgiving weekend, so lots of families are still together. So we mustn't say that it's all over and done with. But the eating and the feasting, perhaps, are over and done with for most of us anyway. So we have story time. Before we begin, I'd like to say good morning to my spirit guide, Grey Eagle, who is standing to my right side, and I'd like to say good morning to Chris. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning.
Uh, have I lost you? Did you disappear?
I hope not.
Oh, I'm awfully sorry. Can you close the door because you're an echo in the background. Sorry, we decided that we would keep the door open, but hey. Oh, excuse me. Yes, yes. I had an early night and an early morning. That's never good for me because if I go to bed too early, well, I wake up and then I wake up early in the morning, then I can't get back to sleep. So, all right. So, um, before we uh, go into story time, before we do any of that, let's give everybody time to log on and to sort of get their act together. Let's talk a little bit about Thanksgiving. We had a really fantastic Thanksgiving Day. It was really phenomenal. And for those of you who joined us in our Cracking Up show last night, you will know that we had a very special Thanksgiving, or let me put it this way: the spirit world was able to give one particular family uh, a very, very fabulous Thanksgiving day, and I think it's fair to say one that they will never ever forget. Uh, so let me see. What did we have to eat? We had ham and turkey and mashed potatoes, and I made roasted onions and carrots and parsnips. I love roasted vegetables, especially root vegetables. I really like roasted root vegetables, and then of course the onions always make it a treat. Roasted onions are delicious, and what else do we have to eat? We had an amazing dessert made by, I don't know, there's some bakery around here in Venice, uh, or some people call it Rosemary's Kitchen anyway, where I've been baking this morning also. I've been sort of rustling up my incredibly, fabulously delicious, really delicious savory cheese crackers, which are in the freezer at the moment. The dough is in the freezer, waiting for me to get it out, cut it into slices, and bake in the oven. So they'll be delicious for later on. All right, so enough about baking, enough about all of that sort of stuff. Um, what did you all do for Thanksgiving? We do have the chat room open, and so we're looking forward to all of your comments and questions. Chris, at the moment, do we have anyone there? Is it a bit early yet?
We still have people logging on, a few people in the chat room. Barb is saying, "Good morning, my friends. It's nice and sunny here in Illinois."
All
Andrea
right.
is saying, "Hello. I just lost my mom in September, so it's been very hard for me."
Who said that? Who?
Andrea.
Andrea. Hi, Andrea. I'm so sorry to hear that, my darling.
Karen from Toronto saying, "Good morning, everyone. It all sounds yummy."
Good morning. Good morning. Were your ears burning, Karen? Yesterday we were talking about you coming to New York for New Year's, and I'm not sure. I think Reese, my grandson, is more excited about you coming than he is about me coming. Because, well, you are his plaything after all, right? Who else have we got there, Chris?
Agnes is saying, "Hello, Rosemary, from my new little home, You were witness when I hoped I could buy it, and you had told her the story about if it had her name on it, she
Oh,
would get it.
nice. Nice. Well, and I hope you're all settled in, Agnes, and I hope you're thoroughly enjoying your home, your beautiful home. Okay, any more, Chris? Do we have anything
Last
else going on?
last one is Gerd is saying hello.
Good morning, Gerd. I wonder where Gerd is from. I think, is that a Swedish name or a Norwegian name? I'm not sure. Can you let us know? Because we're always interested in where people are calling from, and I'm personally interested in sort of origins of names too. So please feel free to come into the chat room and tell us all about you or where you're from and so on. And that goes not just for Go, but for everybody out there. I hope I'm saying that right. I hope I'm pronouncing the name correctly. Anyway, so are there still people logging on? Do we think we'll give them a few? We'll give them just a few more minutes. Sorry, I've got an itchy eye. We'll give them a few more minutes. This morning when I woke up, the whole of the sky was thick, dark grey with heavy fog. But as the morning has progressed, I'm glad to see that the sun is shining, the sky is getting bluer by the minute, and I'm hoping it's getting warmer here. Um, you know, I whenever we think about Florida, we always think of it so warm there. It's really hot in Florida. Nobody imagines that it's going to get cold, but it doesn't get as cold. It never goes down below 50-ish or something. Maybe a little bit sometimes, occasionally, but because we're used to that wonderful warm weather, when it does drop, when the chill does come in a bit, we feel it. We're much more sensitive to the cold. So you might think that 60 degrees is really warm and fabulous. And when I think back to my childhood in England, a good summer was 60 degrees. If it got to 65 degrees, oh well, it was something. And on occasion 70 degrees. If it was 70 degrees in England, we were having a heat wave. So when I talk to you about it's 60 degrees and chilly, it's because I'm so used, my blood has become used to the warmer weather, so I feel it's colder. Anyway, um, I'm going to tell you a story today, which is actually two stories, sort of, in one. One story connects to another story. And I think, any more chats, any more comments, Chris? Or shall I just begin?
No, I think beginning would be wise.
Oh, well, I don't know whether, I don't, don't care whether it's wise or not. Do we have anything else in the chat room?
No.
No. Okay. Oh, well, then that's it then. So, do I have anything else to tell you? Oh, I do want to mention this. Are you all wondering what this is? This weird thing. I don't know how to open it now. See, I'm starting to talk to you about it. But actually, it's the weirdest thing. I can't open it now for some reason. Anyway, there's a pencil hidden in there. As a writer, we all need a pencil, don't we? So I thought, I'll put this on today to remind myself that I'm a writer. So it's a very weird thing. It's a hidden pencil inside of this thing. You can find some amazing jewelry, and you can find some amazing and quirky things that are for sale. And of course, I know all of you have been going on the Black Friday sale and looking for different things on not Black Friday. Yes, it is. It's Black Friday. And for those of you who are in different countries and are wondering what on earth I'm talking about, in the States, um, the Friday after Thanksgiving is the day when we have huge sales. It's called Black Friday, and I'm not quite sure why it's called Black Friday, but everybody reduces their prices. You can get fantastic deals on Black Friday. So people are already scanning the internet, they're scanning Amazon, I guess, they're going looking for big deals everywhere. Where there are sales, there are Black Friday sales, and you can save loads and loads of money doing that. No, I did not get this Black Friday. I've had it for years and years. can't believe I can't open it. I was going to show you, I was going to show you how it works, but hey, it's been ages since I wore it, but I thought, just in case anybody's wondering, what on earth has she got around her neck? It does look like a piece of jewellery, but it's actually a pencil inside. It's a hidden pencil. Right. All right. Let's moving on. I'm rattling away there. I was trying to give some of you a little bit more time to log on, but let's just begin. So it is Saturday morning and it is story time. So as all good stories must begin, and you know I always do this once upon a time. So, once upon a time, we don't have to go back in time too far to begin this story. Um, I think it's fair to say that especially for those of us who have lost someone, when we think about our loved ones in the spirit world, when we think about our angels, when we think about, you know, do they come and visit us? If especially if we know they're there, don't we? We know they're there. We know that they're watching us. We know that they're watching over us, and so very often we I think perhaps we just assume sometimes that they come around us, they visit us. I certainly always look forward to a visit from my daddy, who I can see right now, actually, just talking about this, and so we just we know, don't we, that our loved ones are going to come around, they're going to visit with us, they're going to be, watching what we're up to, and so on and so forth. So imagine the surprise of a, a young woman who it was several months ago, came to me for a consultation, and she had a son who she absolutely loved and just, I guess, worshipped. She and her husband spoiled this boy completely. And she wanted to talk with her father and with her mother, who had recently died, and wanted to know if they were there, wanted to know if they were together, and all of that stuff. So, of course, I was able to connect with her mother and father, and I was able to tell her absolutely yes. Um, they are together, and they are happy where they are, and they love being together. And they wanted to talk about her son and had lots and lots to say about the son. And the consultation was going really, really well, and everybody seemed happy. This lovely lady who called to connect with her parents, she seemed really very happy, and uh, until the point where she asked me to ask them, uh, how often do they come to visit? Do they come to visit? And she knew that they did, didn't she? Uh, but she wanted it confirmed. So imagine her surprise and somewhat my surprise, but not entirely, when I said to her parents, "So, do you go and visit?" They said, "Well, we visit the boy." So I told her that your parents visit their grandson. So she said, "Well, what about me? Do they come and visit the rest of us?" And imagine her surprise and shock when they said, "Well, no, we don't, not really, no." She was puzzled. She was upset. Of course, it was a bit harsh. I didn't like to say that. I didn't like to tell her, "No, your parents don't come." And so of course she said, "Well, why don't, if they come and visit my son, why don't they come and visit with me?" And I said, "Well, okay, now we're starting on another situation. Why didn't they want to come to go and visit with her? Why is it that sometimes our loved ones in the spirit world just simply don't want to come and visit us?" Now, I know that I'm shocking some of you with telling this story, because you can hardly believe it, can you? That our loved ones in the spirit world would not, even if they could, and of course they can, but they would not want to come and visit. And what is it that makes them not want to visit with us? Well, by the time this lady's parents had told me all about the situation in her house, I could understand exactly why they didn't want to visit. So one of her questions had been, can they tell me a little bit about their marriage? So here they were, and they were telling us about the marriage. And basically, the marriage comprised two people, both loving each other, a lovely couple. They really did love each other, but they really, really had no idea how to communicate except through screaming and yelling and accusation and recrimination, and on it went, because something had happened in this marriage. Uh, the husband had, let's say, he had strayed a little bit. Um, when it all came about and she found out what her husband had been up to, they they must have fought, they must have argued, but decided then that they loved each other enough to stay together, and they truly did love each other enough. And let's face it, nobody likes the idea of somebody straying from a marriage or from a relationship, but we do know that it happens. And sometimes it happens deliberately and callously, and it's something that is done, let's say, deliberately, but sometimes things just happen and we lose control. And I'm not making excuses for anybody when I'm saying this. We lose control and things happen, or we let things happen, and we end up in a situation that we really don't want to be in. So, anyway, here we have this couple who have agreed that they love each other enough to stay together, plus they have a son who is 12 years old or something. So, they want to stay together with him as well, and they want to give him a family. However, staying together is one thing, but staying together and uh, always angry. Uh, she was always angry, always screaming at him. He'd gone hidden within himself. Didn't know how to deal with her. Didn't know how to deal with the situation. And the more he didn't talk to her, the more she screamed and yelled at him, and on it went. And basically, why would anybody want to go and visit when there's all this arguing and upset and anger and bitterness and recrimination, and we don't ever think about it, do we? We don't ever think that people can hear us if we're in our own house, the doors are locked, the doors are shut. I remember going with a friend of his, another friend. We were all going on a car journey, and we were going in this other friend's car. The girl standing next to me was looking in the car and saying how awful and dirty and disgusting the car was, and she didn't want to get in it. Oh, I don't want to go in that. How awful it is. And she was saying unkind things about the person with the car. And I said to her, "Hey, let's not be mean. Let's not be mean about this. Let's not look." She looked at me. She shrugged her shoulders. "Oh, nobody can hear what I'm saying. Nobody can hear us." Wrong, 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 wrong. And I looked at her and I said, "You think not? Because I'm pretty sure that those in the spirit world who happen to be around us can hear us and hear every word that we say." A bit scary, isn't it, when you think how much people can hear you? And I'm sure some of you are thinking, as I'm telling this story, I kicked the dog yesterday, or oh gosh, I shouted at my husband or my wife when I shouldn't have, or whatever. We all start to think, oh my goodness, who hears? And I hope nobody heard me say this or that, or I hope nobody saw me when I did whatever it was that you did that you shouldn't have done. So here is this poor woman who is being told and having explained to her that her house is not welcoming. Who wants to go into a house where there's fighting and argument? Now, we all argue, we all fight, but I think more than anything else, when the fighting and the argument and the recriminations and whatever else it is that goes on, when they turn mean, I think that's when the spirit world, or many people in the spirit world, draw the line. This is not the first time that I've had people in the spirit world say, "No, I don't. No, don't really want to go into that." And of course, why would they? Because it's very hurtful and very upsetting when people are, when people have to witness somebody being mean. Um, they made it very clear, this lovely couple, mum and dad, they made it very clear that they were often in their grandson's bedroom and often visited with him, and that perhaps if their daughter could learn to be a little nicer, a little kinder, a little bit more understanding, and to do what she said she was going to do, which was to with her husband, which was to try. You can't on the one hand say I'm trying, and on the other hand be mean and spiteful. And I think spite is one of the worst things. But imagine the horror on her face when she realised, you know, oh my goodness, they can see me. I'm imagining the horror on some of your faces. Imagine the horror on my face when I first realized just exactly how much the spirit world can see and can hear and what they are privy to, because we don't really have a private life. And continuing with this story, and I know it's not, you see, you're so used to nice, wonderful, happy stories. This is a story that I thought, I was remembering a few years ago. A student of mine who happened also to be a friend of sorts, um, and we were, as a group, my students and I, we were sitting one evening, and I began hearing giggling and laughing and children, and I'm thinking, where are these kids coming from? And of course, when I look, I see a whole bunch of young children, small children, in the spirit world who have come to visit with us. Um, but they haven't necessarily come to visit with us uh, just to have fun. They come to visit with us to, hopefully, I think, to teach us something. And this particular student, she had two uh, sort of young girls, daughters, probably, I'm going to say maybe 11 and 13 or something. Nice, very, very nice girls. And so the children were amongst us, and they were talking to me, and they were wanting me to give messages to some of the students in the room. And the messages were very much about what the children saw and heard when they had visited the homes of my students. And this woman, this one particular student of mine, with the one with the two girls, the children said to me, um, "Will you tell her we see her, and we saw her a few days ago with her daughters?" And the story unfolds that this particular student, she had an older house which had an outside toilet, which needed cleaning. And in my opinion, uh, but I'm soft with my kids, an 11 and a 13-year-old are not really capable of giving a good solid scrubbing to a toilet, especially when it's freezing cold and it's winter time and so on. But for some reason or another, my student had decided that the girls needed to go into the outside toilet and give it a really good scrubbing and cleaning, and then proceeded to scream and rage at them, literally going crazy because they hadn't done a good job. We all have our bad days. We all have our off days. There's no judgment here. Would I have got I'm thinking of my grandson who's 9. No, I don't think I would have sent him in to clean the toilets, but there we are. But no judgment, because everybody has different ideas. Everybody brings up their children differently. But the children who came that evening wanted her to know, we saw you. We saw you screaming and raging and hitting the girls. We could say that this student was having a bad time. She was having a rough time. We could say that she was going through a divorce. We could make a trillion excuses. And some of them might be valid or not, depending on your point of view. We're not here judging that. But here are these young children from the spirit world. We saw you. We saw you do this. We saw you screaming at the girls. We saw you hitting the girls, and we don't like you anymore. What a heartbreak. What a heartbreak for this poor woman who's probably going through trauma and all the rest of it. The only thing she can do is take it out of the girls and, whatever. Those poor kids who have to watch. We saw you. We saw you with your daughters. We saw you screaming at them. We don't like you anymore. I'm not sure they were actually saying that they didn't like her, but they didn't like her actions because her actions were mean, based in anger and frustration, for whatever reason. When I go back in my childhood, for whatever reason, we look back and we see the things that were done to us. I was talking to a very good friend of mine last night, which is probably why it reminded me of this story I'm telling today. And he was talking about things that happened to him when he was a child, and the way his mother berated him from time to time, and we're talking about how sensitive children are and how very much affected kids are by what we do, what we say. And I always say to people, you can't expect to teach your children how to behave by just telling them what's right. Children learn by what you do, not by what you say. I'm sure so many of you have heard me say that before. Our kids learn by actions. If you tell them to be nice and gentle, but you yourself aren't nice and gentle, well, what are they going to listen to? They're going to listen far more to the way you behave and the way that you do things. Now, I'm sitting here. Let me say something to you quite clearly as part of this story. I am by no means a perfect mother, and I am by no means a perfect grandmother. I've done and said things that I shouldn't do or say. But when we're looking at the spirit world and we think of our angels, and we know that they love us, and we know that they forgive us pretty much anything at all, we know that our loved ones in the spirit world, we know that they love us, and we know that they care about us. I don't think this woman's parents were telling her we don't visit to be mean to her. I think they were trying to help her to understand exactly what she was doing. She was creating very negative energy. She was creating an atmosphere that, even though she thought her son did not know about it, of course he knew about it. Of course he saw the way she treated his father. Of course children know these things. We think if we whisper and the kids don't hear, that they don't know, but kids know these things. Kids are aware of these things, very much so. But on that night, all those many years ago, when those kids came into my house and looked at that woman and said, we saw you. We saw you and we heard you. And then described what they'd seen and heard. And then said, we don't like you anymore. They're not saying they don't like us or they don't love us or they don't care about us. They're saying, you need to look at your behavior. Behave kindly, even when you think no one's watching, because there's always somebody watching. Behave gently. because there's always somebody watching what we're doing and how we're behaving. Always. There's always someone. You know, I've seen many angels in my time, and I've been in lots of different situations. The thing about our angels I've learned is that when they look at us, even when we're in our worst moments, even when we're not being very nice, whenever they see us or whenever I see them watching us or looking at us, there is absolutely no judgment in their eyes at all. There is understanding and there is gentleness. They understand that we're human and that we have human faults and failings. They understand that sometimes our frustrations and our despair make us lash out when we really, it's not a nice thing. Or they see us sometimes allowing our bitterness and our anger to create meanness within us. They're not judging us, they're just looking at us with gentle eyes and probably hoping that we're going to learn and maybe temper our behavior and maybe understand that, you know, it's not about behaving well only when only when you're in public or when you think people are looking at you or hearing you. It's not about behaving well in those circumstances. It's about being just generally a nice person, a good person. And, you know, bitterness and anger create all of these awful situations within us. Um, I've had occasion sometimes to really feel badly about my behavior because it's not who I want to be. I don't want to be that person that is behaving badly. And if I can say to myself, I don't want to be that person, that's when I can rein myself in and remember, well, if you don't want to be that person, you have one choice only: don't be that person. Or when you say you don't want to be that person and you continue to be that person, obviously you don't really want to be any different than you are. It's a bit scary, isn't it? The story is a little bit scary when you think about it. You know, we see you, we hear you, we don't like you anymore. Oh, I hope that no one in the spirit world has ever said that about me. I'm hoping they have, obviously, we don't like your behaviour now. That's not a nice way to behave. And sometimes when I'm behaving badly or if I'm having, let's say, negative thoughts, I'll say something, then I'll say, whoops, I'm sorry, I really shouldn't have said that because that's not really nice of me. I know it, but I just can't help. And then I start to blather on and make excuses for myself. But the truth of the matter is, we are seen and we are heard and we are human and we can't be perfect every minute of every day by any means. But we can hopefully cut out the meanness. We can hopefully cut out the bitterness because it's the bitterness that turns us and makes us into people that we don't want to be. And we can hopefully, each of us, and one of the reasons I'm telling you this story is, you know, I want you to be loved and I want your family to come visit you as I know you do. Um, so what we have to try to do whenever we have any visitors at all, we try to, if I'm having a dinner party, I try to make my table as nice as it could possibly look. I want my food to taste good, which means that I better not be thinking negative thoughts while I'm cooking because we don't want those negative thoughts to go in there. I try to make my home as welcoming and as pleasant for people as it's possible to be. I don't always manage it, but I do try. And that is all the Spirit world is asking of us. That is all this couple, this wonderful mum and dad, that is all they want for their daughter because really all they want is for her to be happy. And to be so stern with her and sort of give her, I guess, the kick up the backside that she needs or needed. I hope she learned from it. I'm pretty sure she did. But sometimes we need our loved ones in the spirit world not to be gentle and kind. We need them to say, hey, come on, get a grip. And that's what they do. They try to steer us, they try to guide us, and it's called tough love. So, for all of you who might think that nobody's seeing you when you kick the dog, nobody's, nobody's seeing you when you're being aggressive, nobody's seeing you when you're being a bit mean, don't worry. Nobody's judging you, but maybe you'll think twice next time before you get yourself out of control enough to drive away the loved ones who you desperately want to be with you and to join in with you. Now, I'm hoping now that means that between now and Christmas, every one of you is going to be on your best behavior. You're going to want your family in the spirit world to join you, and this is the way to do it. Let them see. By all means, they know who we are. They know our bad stuff as well as our good stuff. Let's let them see that the good always overrides the bad, even though it might not negate it completely. It always overrides it, and we can be those nice, kind people we really want to be. As I've said, the parents of this lovely woman, and she was lovely, and she adored her son, and she loved her husband. She just could not get past the bitterness of betrayal. And in a way, you can understand it, but the only person it's hurting at the end of the day is you and your loved ones and your family. It's hurting them. I grew up in a house where anger and bitterness drove everything. The bitterness of I deserve more. Why did it happen to me? I deserve this. I deserve better. Whatever. And that bitterness and that anger that was held within my mother in every movement and in every word she ever spoke, that bitterness drove her to make not only our lives miserable, but at the end of the day, I was able to get out of that life and I learned how not to be. I'm thankful that she was the way she was because she taught me how not to be. But she went to, she lived until she was 86 years old, 86 years. And from the time that she could remember, she disliked her mother, despised her father, despised her husband, very often despised the kids, and on it went. 86 years of misery. Can you imagine that? Some of you perhaps don't have to imagine it. Some of you might know of someone who is like that. Bitterness and anger bring despair and misery to everyone who is going to touch it or be a part of it, even if it's only a little part of it. So when you're thinking Christmas is coming now, come on, time of happiness, time of joy, every day should be a time where we find joy in a moment at least, if only one moment in the day. But let go of the bitterness, let go of the heartache. I'm hoping this morning's story has helped you to see a way through. And or if you know of someone who is living in this way, uh, perhaps you could share with them this story or this video and let them see how very, very damaging it is to be that way and how we miss out on so much. I think Gregor says it best, as he always says to me, your world needs betterness. So let's have some gentle and loving thoughts, shall we? The end. Okay. How are we doing over there, Chris? Any comments? Anything going on in the chat room?
Well, we'll give people a minute to put things in the chat room from your story. I'll go back to what you were talking about prior to your story. Jeff had answered sort of the question about why Black Friday is considered Black Friday.
Oh, good. Thank you, Jeff.
He said Black Friday is a retailer term that indicates the beginning of shopping season.
Hold on a minute. Oh, it's a retail term. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It,
And stores will be operating in the black at a profit, not in the red at a loss.
oh, well, you see that sort of. Yeah. Okay. That makes me think. Well, we all know this, don't we? How much markup there is on goods if they are still working in the black when they're having massive discounts on their goods. But thanks, Jeff, for that. That's an interesting one.
All right, and then we just have some hellos from some new folks, Alessandro and Randy. I mean, they may have been here in the past, but new for a while. Dean is giving you an idea for a future storytelling theme. He
Okay,
says
go for it.
story suggestion for the future.
Okay.
What do people in the spirit world say they are doing in the spirit world, and why are they happy?
Uh, well, not everyone in the spirit world is happy. In fact, the, the the story I just told you about, when I asked the parents, "Are you happy?" Of course, they're not happy, because how can they be happy if their loved ones here are not happy? If there's so much hurt and anger and all of that going on, how can they be happy? But what they do tell me very often is that they are happy within their environment. They are happy to have uh, connected with their loved ones who passed before them. There is a lot to be happy about. They're not saying, and I don't think I've ever heard anyone say, I'm entirely happy and I have no issues or problems whatsoever, because they love us. So if we have issues and if we have problems, well, then, so do they. So I don't want anyone there sitting there thinking that your loved ones are sitting on a cloud, playing a harp, all is well, everything is beautiful, because this is not how it really is not how it is. Um, and as for Dean, thank you for this suggestion. As for what do people in the spirit world do, you might as well say, well, what do people on this earth do? It's the same. It's the same question, and the answer is we all do different things. You know, we. I can tell you that one of my uh, young people in the spirit world who I absolutely love. David told his parents he loved snowboarding when he was here, and he was telling his parents that he was cloud boarding. I like that. Um, there are lots of things to do in the spirit world. I mean, the universe and the many universes that are out there are huge, vast, and lots of exploring to be done. Lots of lots of places to be and to visit. So so it depends who you're talking to, Dean. One person might say, well, what we're doing is we're writing. Another person may say, oh, we're exploring. Another person may say something else entirely. So I do get why you want to know, but if a Martian came right now, this very second, and called me up, I'd pick up the phone. If you want me to talk to a Martian, wouldn't you? So I'd pick up the phone and he'd say, hey, Rosemary, what's your world like? Can you tell us what your world is like? Where would we begin? Uh, would I begin with Florida? Would I begin with England? Would I begin with India? Where am I going with this? Because there are so many different parts of the world. For those of you who watched Cracking Up last night, you heard me say England is a very small country. When you look at it on the map, it's teeny compared to a lot of countries. But within that small country, there are so many different parts, different towns, villages, cities, different parts of the country, so many things going on, and so many people doing so many different things. So, would I tell the Martian about England? But then I'd have to say to him, but I'm only telling you about one teeny, teeny part of our world. So, big question. Chris.
So there are a few people in the chat room who are sharing stories of hurts they have experienced in the past because your story reminded them of the hurts.
Okay.
I'm going to
That's it.
read Barb's as a sampling. Barb says, a friend of mine for many years started to become very nasty. I overlooked it a long time as she was having some health problems. Then she hurt me deeply, and I can't seem to forgive and forget. How can I heal, Rosemary?
Well, my darling, forget about the forgiving because I'm, how can I explain this to you? I think in order for us to forgive, we have to absolutely know all the detail, and we don't. I feel that only God has the capacity to forgive. I think as human beings, we can only simply accept that people do these things, and but people are human, and everyone makes mistakes, and that there are so many people who say mean things or are nasty as your friend did to you. We don't know the reasons behind that. We don't know what's going on in her life. So how can you forgive something when you don't even understand what's going on with it? But I do think if you try to accept, we're all little human beings, as I say. We're all little human beings, every single one of us, with our faults and with our failings. I understand and accept if somebody is being mean to you, or they're just not behaving in a way that is acceptable for you, then that's the time you should move on. You move on from them, you move away from them. You don't ever want to put yourself in a situation whereby you're going to get barbs all the time or be hurt all the time. That's not acceptable. Um, but accepting that there are people who are like this, and accepting that you just need to move on. I think that letting go of the hurt, so the forgiveness, I think, instead of forgiving, just accept. We are we all of us make mistakes. We all have faults and failings. We all do things that we shouldn't do, and it's okay to it's okay to you don't have to forgive. You just have to accept she's a human being just as you are, and let it go. How can you let the hurt go? How can you let the pain go? I think that by simply looking for the things in your life that are joyful, and you know you're holding on to something which is negative. And if you're holding on to something which is negative, it's going to eat away at you. And I'm sure it has begun to eat away at you. And I'm sure that every time you think of it, or every time you're reminded of it, then that horrible thing happens, doesn't it? Your stomach clenches, or you get tightness of breath, or something. You feel old angers and old resentment. When you accept that she's a human being with faults and failings, that's all she is. Somehow you must have put her on a pedestal. Somehow you must have believed that she was better than this, or that she was, and you're disappointed, and that's understandable that you're disappointed. But you need to allow her to live her life, and you need to get on with yours. Holding on to anger and bitterness is destructive. How do you let it go? Easily. You take a really good look at that person, and you accept that she's a human being with faults and failings. I've done this with my mother. Let me tell you, it wasn't an easy thing to do, because we do. We hold on to the hurts, and we wonder what did we do, or what did they ever do to be so mean to us. But if you can look at her as a flawed human being, as I did my mother, and let go. That was her life. She made her choices. It's not for me to judge. It's not for me, because I believe if you can't forgive unless you're judging first. I don't forgive my mother. That doesn't mean I'm holding on to anything. It means that I don't judge her because I feel that I'm not uh, able to. I don't know the whole of the story, so I'm not. I don't want to judge. I don't want to be judge and jury. I'm not going to be that. So I don't forgive. I simply accept. and feel sad. I do feel very sad for people who have tendencies to lash out or to be mean or to whatever it is that they do. So understanding she just accept she's a human being, faults and failings, move along, let go, move on. Too much in life to worry about, an individual or however many individuals there are in your life like that. There are too many good things to focus on. So just cut it out.
All right. Then Agnes says it was a lovely story and it warmed her heart.
Oh, good, I'm glad, Agnes. Glad you enjoyed it.
Wayne says, "Hi, Rosemary. Thanks for the teachings and
Hi,
God
darling.
bless."
Oh, hi, Wayne. How are you? What's going on?
Brandy says, "Sincerely, thank you with sharing your story. It means more than you will ever know.
Oh,
We'll
thank you,
talk soon. It's been about 25 years since we met in Atlanta."
25 years? What is going on? Now, come on. How could you let 25 years go by? Now, come on. Keep going, Chris.
Dean says, "What I was getting at with my question for the future is, are we required to do certain things, or do we have free will to create our own world as we want?"
This is when you go to the spirit world, right? What was that? Repeat it to me.
The
Are
question,
we? Yeah. Are we
what
what?
what I was getting at with my question for the future is, are we required to do certain things, or do we have free will to create our own world as we want?
Well, I don't know that it's any of that. I think that we do have free will, but not as much as we think we have. I think our free will is all about our attitude. So when we go to the spirit world, it's going to be about attitude. It's going to be about whether or not we want to learn or whether we want to grow. It's going to be about whether we want to listen to other people who know more than we do. It's everything's about attitude. It's going to be all about our attitude towards the things that we're presented with, and whether we and again, we're not going to be simply on our own. There are other people who are going to be around us, and so we consider them as well. I mean, if you want to go off and make your own world, good luck with that, because if you unless you want other people to share your world with you, you've got to consider their wants and needs as well. Moving on. I love you, Dean. Moving on.
The Queen of Shades says, "My mother said she has seen my brother in her dream. Is there a reason I have not seen him yet?"
Oh, darling, I think it's just that maybe your mother has an easier time of opening, perhaps, or being aware. When we see our loved ones in our dreams, I mean, it's often about them visiting us. Um, it could be that you're very emotional about this subject, and because you're too emotional or very emotional about it, you on a subconscious level you shut down. You're afraid to be open. You're afraid to allow him in. I don't think the reason is a bad reason. I think it's about time. It's about you allowing your grief to flow, to sort of absorb the grief. Don't try to shut things down. I have a feeling that you do tend to try to be the strong one, and therefore you close off emotionally. So you need to learn to open up, and that'll make you even stronger still. But I think that when you're ready, when the time is right, absolutely, you will see and hear and sense and be aware. Just be patient.
Dean responded, "More on my comment. I want to picnic with my loved ones. That's the type of world I would like when I pass.
Well, let's hope that you have that type of world. You know something, Dean? I think that we're living in this type of world already. I mean, you don't have to picnic because it's because it's lousy weather. There have been lots of times when my daughter was younger. We had loads of picnics. Sometimes it was a sunny day and we picnicked outside. Sometimes we would go into Bluebell Woods. It was called. Oh gosh, and we'd have picnics and we'd take picnics and we'd go into the New Forest and we'd take picnics. And sometimes it would be a miserable, horrible, rainy day and we'd have picnics on the floor in the living room. You can always have picnics wherever you are, and hopefully with whoever you want to be with. Reese and I sometimes have picnics. We have, and in fact, on New Year's Eve, uh, my lovely friend Karen will be there. We'll be having a smorgasbord and picnics by watching. We might be watching a movie, or we could be playing music, or whatever it is we're doing on New Year's Eve. We always have a picnic of a kind. We have lots of different, usually pate. Yes, I know. I like liver. I love liver pate. We have liver, and we have nice crusty bread, and we have pies maybe, or cold meats or something. But we make a picnic, and we all sit around the table on the floor, and we have a lovely, lovely time. Don't need to be in the spirit world to have picnics. Picnics happen wherever you are, and I think that's a fabulous world that you want, Dean. But if you think that's all you're going to be doing is just picnicking, um, wouldn't you get bored with it after a while? That's not a question. Moving on, Chris.
Barb is just saying thank you to you, Rosemary, and that's the last of the comments.
Okay, well, and guess what? We are at time. So, all right. So, well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this morning. I hope you liked my story, and I hope it makes you think a little bit. I've been thinking of that for the last 2 or 3 days. I can't think why, but anyway, I've been thinking about those things for the last 2 or 3 days on my mind, and so. I will see you again, hopefully, on Thursday morning at Thursday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for our show, The Spirit World Sees All. We may, from time to time, be changing the show. Instead of it being a Thursday, we might make it a Wednesday, or we might make it Friday. We're not quite sure, but anyway, we'll see what happens. But this Thursday, I think it's going to be on Thursday. The Spirit World Sees All. We should be doing more cracking up as well, and we do have an event coming up on the 17th of December. It is a healing event. I shall be doing a workshop. You can find out all the information on my website. Um, rosemaryaltea.com. Just go to the website, you'll see it all up there. I think tickets are available. I'm not quite sure, but I think tickets are available now. But anyway, go to the website and you can check that out. We have lots of people wanting to know more about healing, and we have lots of people wanting to know either they're wanting to learn how to become a healer, or they people who want to have healing themselves. How do we get that? Where do we go for that? And there are some people who not only want to be healers, but also, like me, love healing as well. So that'll be a whole workshop on the 17th of December. So get ready for that, because that's going to be a lot of fun too. So we'll be doing all sorts of things. In the meantime, for those of you who are still celebrating Thanksgiving weekend, keep going and keep celebrating and enjoy your families. And for those of you like me who are, I don't know what we're doing. We might be going to a craft fair this afternoon. You never know what we're going to be doing. This morning I was making wonderful cheesy biscuits. They're in the freezer right now. The dough is in the freezer. I'm going to now go and cut all the cookies and put them in the oven. I love my cheesy biscuits. If you want the recipe, maybe one Sunday morning, I'll show you exactly how to make them. So easy to make, so easy to make, and you'll see what they're like, and then Chris and I can eat them all because they are so. you ever heard the word Moorish? It's a very British word. There, Moorish means, can I have some more of those, please? So that's what we're going to be doing this afternoon. Wherever you are, whatever you're up to, whichever country you're in, please, please, please have a very, very blessed rest of this day. Thank you for joining us and have a very blessed weekend, everybody. Bye bye.